All right, hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am back at you with another Wargaming Wednesday. All right, I've got some interesting news, and I plan to work on a few models today. Let me swap these out for my actual eyes. Okay, so what do we got going on today? Well, first of all, I want to let's talk about gaming news in general. Warlord Games, they've announced their Prussians, which we knew that was coming for their epic Napoleonics, their epic Waterloo. They've got their Prussians announced officially. We already knew they were coming because they already talked about it. But now it's official, and I've received pre-order forms for my store to pre-order the Prussians, and I'm letting you know that I do not plan to pre-order any of the epic. I don't plan to okay, let's back up. I don't plan to pre-order anything from Warlord. Now, speaking of which, I do have a new rep. He's contacted me, and well, it was a mass email, so it really wasn't a direct contact. But he mass emailed all of his clients and said, "Okay, I'm your new rep," and he's taking over for the other guy, which is good. So now I know who to call or who to email when I have problems, or when I need to place an order. I still have not received a what they call a web code for ordering on their website. I still have to order through a PDF, right? They send out every month. They send out a new PDF with all the pre-releases, all the new releases, and all the all the product lines and all everything that they offer to their retailers. It would be so much better, so much easier if I could just go to their website, pick all the items that I wanted, and then just hit, just put in my retailer code or whatever, and I feel that would be a lot easier. But this PDF is also, it's not a PDF, I guess I lied. It's an Excel spreadsheet, because you enter the numbers and it calculates how much it's going to be and blah, blah, blah. Okay. In the past, I had pre-ordered in that method the epic Waterloo stuff, and I received none of it. And so I've decided that I'm not going to pre-order. I'm just going to order when it comes out. And that's only if I've got some kind of desire, some interest in the store for that. If I don't, then I won't. Mainly because, as you probably already know, I was planning on getting big into Napoleonics in the epic scale. Man, my voice sounds a little rough. I don't know. It doesn't feel rough, but okay. And I decided, because the epic scale is a unique scale, and they are planning on expanding it, and they're growing out their product and everything. But right now, it doesn't have everything that I want, and neither does 28s. But 28, especially when Front Rank closed their doors. Right? They were in the process of selling to Gripping Beast, which, I don't know if you know this, but you can actually go to the Gripping Beast website right now, and you can order Front Rank what am I trying to say? all the front rank models. Okay, so I already have quite a selection of front rank models, and front rank does a really good job on their 28 millimeter Napoleonics and their American War of Independence and everything else. I strongly recommend them as a product line. I personally like pewter and the metal models better than the plastic models, but that's my personal opinion, right? Okay. Plastic models do have they have a cost benefit, but not a, and if you're not concerned with building large, my wife sounds like she's coughing up a lung. When what's the word? Yeah, if you're not concerned with the time it takes to put all those models together, and then plastic might be a good thing for you. But plastic models, you got to glue arms on, you got to glue the weapons in the hands, you got to glue the heads on, the backpacks, sometimes the sword sheaths, and all kinds of things. Ammo pop, bayonets, and what do they call those things? Bugles and drums, the standard bearers, all that stuff you have to glue separately, and it could take you an entire afternoon just to snip them off the sprues, and clean them up and glue them together, and to get a 24-man unit put together. It could take you all afternoon. Where with the metals, I was doing you take a bag of I took like 3 bags of, let's say, French infantry, and they come like 24 or 36, depending on how you wanted to get them. And then I would take them out of the bags. I would clean them, scrub, soap and water is the type of cleaning I'm talking about. I'd clean them, and then I would trim all the flash off of them. And I could do 3 battalions like that. I'm counting a battalion as 24 figures. So I could do like 3 battalions in like 2 hours. I would have them mounted on their popsicle sticks and primed, and I probably would have even started painting them all in the first day. If I tried to do like 60 figures or 72 figures in one afternoon, it wouldn't happen. It would like take me 3 days to snip them, trim them, wash the soap and water, glue them all together. Yeah, it would have taken me like 3 days. So, and the metal, they seem to have the new metals, especially the front rank metals, they've got quite a bit of detail, so I really like them. Okay, but you guys know that I was getting excited about the Epic Waterloo because I wanted to shrink my games down. 28 millimeters, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. Yeah, these guys right here. These are 28s right here. These are 15s, but these are 28 millimeter models right here. These, I'm almost finished with them. We got some Swiss and we have some French, and these are both a commission for me for the channel. I started these last Wednesday, so it's taken me about a week to do these. I'm on the last finishing touches. I just applied my last wash. I've only got like 3 more things I want to do to these figures. Four things if you count painting the bases, because I'm probably going to paint the bases. I'm going to do like a highlight real quick on their pants. in white, clean up any like dirt spots or stuff like that I want to clean up, like their knees and their thighs and their calves. I'm probably going to do in a brighter white to kind of clean it up, and then I'm going to paint the brass. There are certain brass plates, like on their helmets, in the front part of their helmet, and a couple of canteens, and I want to paint those up with like a bronze brass color. And then once I get those two colors on, then I want to clear coat them, and I think I can get all of that done today. And then I can let this guy know, hey, these guys are done, they're ready to go. You know, and let him know they're ready to go. Oh, okay. I jumped into 28s. Well, the reasons, that's what I had been collecting for years, you know, a few years now. I was originally a 15 millimeter Napoleonic player, and I decided to get away from the brigade scale and start going towards a battalion scale. And I thought that if I go to a battalion scale, which is more zoomed in to the Napoleonic soldier, I needed to go with a bigger figure. That's not really true, but the rule set that I picked up was black powder, and they recommended 28 millimeter. So I jumped into 28 millimeter with 2 feet forward, and there's a lot of good details on those 28 millimeter figures. You can see buttons and straps, and you know, their helmet, what do you call it, the cords, and all that stuff is really good. A lot higher detail than you probably would get on a 15 millimeter model. And then I saw this Epic Waterloo, right, from the same company that did my 28 millimeter game, black powder. They advertised it as being epic, and when they say epic, they don't mean small, okay? They are smaller figures, but that's not what they're getting at. What they're getting at is the epic feel, the grand majesty of the battle. So when you get these figs on the table, you're looking at 40 to 80 models per battalion, right? Maybe even more. So 20, 40, 60, 80, maybe even up to 100 models as a battalion. Around 80 primarily, but you can get up to 100. And I was thinking, that's great, because that makes the battalion look like it's got a ton of troops, right? It would make it look epic. So I dug into it, and I thought about it, and they're doing Waterloo, which is that's my jam. So I was like, oh, okay, Waterloo, let's do it. But then I got to really looking at the models. I made the commitment to go to Epic before I really had made it, before I realized what I was doing. I'm going to have to admit it. They're not 15 millimeter models. They are... a 15 millimeter model is almost half of a 28. If you had a 14 millimeter model, you'd be pretty close to half of what a 28 is. But no, these guys are not even 15s. they're closer to 12, right? So I was like, which is N scale or 144 scale. So I was thinking, okay, well, the 144 scale is a little bit smaller than 15s. It's closer to 10 millimeter than it is to 15 millimeter. So I was like, okay, let's not complain about it. Let's just jump into it. And I said, okay, they don't have a bunch of the units that I want. That, you know, like I want the Nassau. They don't have this. I want the Dutch Belgians. They don't have that. I wanted the Guard at the time. They didn't have that. I want the various cavalry units. They have a lot of them, but they don't have all of them. Okay, but they do have almost all of them. I was like, okay, and artillery is artillery is artillery. Not true. There's foot and there's horse and there's foot guard and there's horse guard. And then there's rocket artillery as well. But there was basically just a ton of, they don't have Brunswickers, which is like one of my favorites, and Nassau was some of my favorites. They don't have any of those, right? They have British and French, and that was it, right? Now I understand that you can paint a French soldier and make it look like Nassau. I get it. You can paint a French soldier and make it look like it's a Swiss soldier. I get it. Maybe even the Dutch. The Dutch had shakos, so you could paint French to look like Dutch. But they don't. They're not. Their uniforms are not exactly the same. They're similar, and at that scale, it'd be hard to tell the difference. But I'm a little anal about that. I'm going to tell you, why get into a historical game like World War II, Civil War, medievals, or whatever? Why get into a historical game if you're just going to put green plastic army men on the table, right? So what I'm trying to say is, that's fun. That could be a good game, but it's not why I get into historical games. I get into historical games mainly because of the uniforms and the tactics and the strategy and what actually happened, and not some hypotheticals or incorrect uniforms. I'm not going to take some French soldier model and paint it up like a Nassau, and mainly because the straps are wrong. You know, the backpacks are wrong. You know, it's just there's certain things about it that are wrong. So that frustrated me, first of all. And I knew that they were going to eventually release more and more for that. So I kind of bit my tongue and kept driving on. And that's why I had pre-ordered it originally, but again, never received it, which is a good thing for me because I've already moved on. So while I was waiting, and I was super excited about it, digging into the models and the basing and because I didn't really know anything about it because it was still pre-ordered. And then I saw these YouTubers starting to get units in, or sprues and bases, and they were talking about it and showing it off and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you know, these guys look really good. The molding and everything looks good. You know, on camera, they look as large as 15 millimeters or better, but they're not. They're much smaller than 15s. So I was like, Okay, if they look as good as 15s or better, and you get like 10 guys on a sprue, and you put 2 guys on a base, it's gonna, and you get a bunch, like 4 bases in a battalion or whatever, you're gonna get an epic. It's gonna look outstanding on the table, right? And so that's what I was thinking. And then I got to thinking. I'm sorry, I got to a lot of thinking. And we'll talk about these planes and these bases, and I'll do some painting in a bit. But I just wanted this. I got this Warlord. Here, let me kind of pull it up for you guys, just so you can see it while I'm talking. Okay, I've got this article about terrain feature plans noir right here. But while I was researching and all this stuff, I realized that those bases were 60 millimeters wide. They were all 60 millimeters wide and 20 millimeters deep. Okay, 20 millimeters is good depth for about a 10 millimeter model. And 60 millimeters wide for 10 models is actually pretty tight, right? So other models are molded with their shoulders over or behind each other. So they were actually pushing against each other, overlapping. I mean, it's all one model, but they were all tighter, closer together than they should be, right? They shouldn't be with somebody's shoulder directly behind somebody else's shoulder directly to their side. They should not be that close. There should be a little bit of a gap. I think it's about 10 inches, but there's supposed to be a gap between each file. And so that bugged me. Even though it looks good, 60 millimeters, I don't know if you can see that on here, but you're looking at like a base that big, right? Oh, you can't see that because of my camera. Okay, so there's 60 millimeters, right, by 20. That is just way too, no wait, that's not even 60 millimeters. That is 60 millimeters, right? That's a big base. And then I thought to myself, why go with a 60 millimeter base for a game? Now I was starting to think game, right? So why go to a 60 millimeter base if the game I was enjoying was a 40 millimeter base game, right? So I'm actually adding 50% more base. So now it's half the depth, but 1.5 times the width. Okay, so when you're putting an army on the table, you're not putting depth, you're putting width. Somebody lost this in translation. So when you're putting your battalions out in a line in black powder, you get 6 bases at 40 millimeters. You're looking at 240, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you're looking at 240 millimeters for a battalion, which, what is that, 10 inches? Nine and a half inches. Okay, 9.5 inches. So a standard black powder stock, you know, as in default Warlord is 24 millimeters or 24 centimeters or 240 millimeters or 9.5 inches. 9.5 inches, if you think about it, you're only putting about, I don't know, 10 battalions side by side. That's 90 inches. What is that? Is that 8 feet? Yeah, you got 8 feet for 10 battalions. Something like that. I don't know, my math might be off, but you get the idea. And then, of course, you're going to have your depth, of course, and their depth was 40 millimeters in depth. So you could only put about 3 units in depth. If you wanted to stay like within 8 inches or 10 inches of your table side. That's your entire army, right? If you've got that many battalions on the table, then, and that would be to me, that's a reasonable sized battle. But guess what? I've just filled up the entire table with my units. I crammed them in. There's no room to adjust. Now I could put them in columns, but it would equate to the same thing. I would be putting 3 battalions side by side and no units in depth because of what a column does to a unit. You know, you get the idea. So no matter what, you're only putting about 30 units on the table. Okay, so so the whole reason why I even considered Epic was because of the smaller scale figures. What I was anticipating was getting more units on the table, or more importantly, more maneuver room on the table. So more chance to outflank your enemy, or you have to make a decision. Am I going to go to the right or am I going to go to the left? You know, make the game a little bit more cerebral. But when it was only I line up on my side, you line up on your side, and we just advance it and roll dice. That's what it is when the table is full of figures. So I said, okay, let's go to Epic. And then I heard that Epic was 60 millimeter bases, but there's only 4 bases per battalion. So what does that mean? 240 millimeters, because 60 times 4. You're still getting the 240 width. Now you're not getting the depth any longer. You're getting half the depth. But you still don't have the side-to-side maneuverability. Right? It is slightly better. It is slightly better because now I can put them in columns, and that column would not be as deep. It would be exactly, it would be what, 2/3 the depth. But but even in column, I'm still only getting 3 units in there because of the width of the base prevents me from putting more than just 3 units in there. So what did that tell me? That told me that I wasn't gaining anything. It's exactly the same, right? If you play, let me back up. Table size and the battalion scale is exactly the same, or it's close enough not to be an advantage, not to be a difference. So take that out of the equation, right? You're not gaining table space. You're not gaining maneuverability or decision making. It's still the same battalions in the same places going against the same units on the other side. What do you gain? The only thing you do gain is aesthetics. It looks better because you have more figures in a smaller area. So in a old school black powder game, you'd have 24 figures in that 240 millimeter line, right? Where in Epic, you don't have 24 figures, you've got 80 figures. So yes, it would look like there's a lot more guys there, and I struggled with that. Is that good enough? Is that enough reason to switch to Epic? And I was like, no, it's not enough reason. Aesthetics is good, but I need the maneuverability. I want to be able to play bigger battles on the same playing field, or I want to have, if I do play the normal battles like the printed scenarios or whatever, I want to have, basically, in effect, the table would be twice as big, so you could maneuver around, you could finagle, you can strategize and so I had to have a way to do what I wanted to do. So I thought about it. I said, I could just half those bases. I could just take a hacksaw and cut them in half, right? And then I would have 30 millimeter bases in 20 millimeter depth. And a 30 millimeter with 20 millimeter depth is, it's pretty close to perfect. 2 ranks of 5 guys. I'm like, that sounds really good. And then I got to looking at the models, and with their arms overlapped and their figures are so close together and they're crunched together, you can't conveniently cut 5 figures down the center, right? I could try to cut around the shoulder and around the other guy's shoulder and stuff like that. We could try to separate, but it wouldn't come out right because the way they molded them, it was like the guy's shoulders were inside each other. So if you cut one guy's arm, you're actually cutting into the other guy's arm at the same time. You're not just trimming. So I figured, I could trim one of the guys and then just have the other guy just snip him off or whatever. And then I would have like 4 figures in the back row and 5 figures in the front row or something like that. And I was like, okay, I was trying to make it work. And then I thought about it and I was like, what the F? Why am I trying to make this work? Right? I don't need those epic models. First of all, they don't have all of the uniforms for all the different nations. Not yet, anyway. They're working on it. The scale is unique. It's like 13.5, or something like that. It's a unique scale that no one else is doing. So I couldn't just say, hey, can I get some Essex miniatures and get me a 13.5 and put them in there with my Epic Warlord? Nope. If you're going Epic Warlord, that's all you're going. You're going to have to get your Cav. You're going to have to get everything Epic. There's not going to be any chance. Okay, her phone's going off. There's not going to be any chance to... What if I wanted Russians? They're not at Waterloo. What if I wanted Peninsula British? Or what if I want Spanish or Portuguese or who knows? Maybe I want, not the Swiss guys, but maybe I want Bavarians or something. You can't get it in their scale. In their scale, no. It's all or nothing. At least with the 28s, you can get other companies are out there making 28 millimeter models, and you can get them and you can fill out what you want. Okay, so I decided, can I do this in 10 millimeter? So I ordered a bunch of 10 millimeter models. A bunch. I have them in a box right over there on the table. I have so many 10 millimeter models that I probably should never have ordered. Well, I know for a fact I should never have ordered them. So I started looking around at 10 millimeter thinking that I could put a bunch of 10 millimeter models on maybe a 30 by 20 base, and we could do something like that. Well, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting old or it's because my eyes are going bad or it's because the quality of the models aren't there or something. There's some reason why I've decided I don't want to do 10 millimeters. They're too small. They still have enough detail on them that when you're standing over the table and you're looking down at the table, you definitely can tell that they're a Napoleonic figure, and you can tell what nation they are, and you can tell that. So I was like, okay, let's do that. And then I started looking for flags in 10 millimeter. You can't find them. I mean, there's a few of them out there. There's a few regiments. Yes, you can find some flags, but not all the ones I wanted. I could print my own flags, but they don't look that good. So I said, what am I even doing? I just sat back and said, I'm just going to go to 15 millimeter. It's basically half the scale of 28, so I should be able to half the base size, right? I should be able to take everything and shrink it down and basically and I would be able to double my table space. Hey, Reg. Okay. I can't read that. It's a million miles away. But let me see. What do I got here? One of the Brit YouTubers did cut the epic bases in half. It was easy and looked good, but you're right. Why? Just do it in 15s. Exactly. I don't think it's easy. I mean, it's extra work for little reward is what I'm trying to say. Yes, it can be done, but like you said, like I said, like we all said, why, right? So I decided, excuse me, I don't know, my throat, maybe it's just dry, but it sounds like I'm hoarse or something, which I shouldn't be because I haven't been, and that's not true. I have been putting up a lot of computer games lately, and I've been talking to the microphone, so maybe that's what's caused me to be hoarse. But it doesn't hurt or anything, so I don't know. So I figured, why don't I just take some model, and then I thought about it. I said, okay, Napoleon's battles. If you remember that game, that was 20 millimeters wide, right, by 1 inch, 25 millimeters deep, right, 3/4 inch by 1 inch bases. And I said, those would be good, but they don't look good, right? If you take your 15 millimeter models and you shrink the bases down, like I considered taking the 40 millimeter model bases from black powder and just exactly halving them and going with a 20 millimeter base, it doesn't work, because 15 millimeter models are larger than half size. Because if they were half size, they would be 30 millimeter models. These are not 14 millimeter models, they're 15 millimeter models. So 20 by 20 didn't work. So I considered a 1 inch base, right? 25 by 25. That would work. That would work perfect. The depth is right, the width is right. I could put 4 models on a 25 by 25. It would be square, just like those bases were. And all my battalions would be great. And I would have, in effect, almost exactly double the table size. I really thought about that. And it's still in the back of my mind. But it doesn't look right. A square base does not look right. It's one of the things about black powder original, I call it original, but 28 millimeter black powder, that bothered me, right? Square bases. Perry pioneered this basing style that was 6 figures. It was 3 across and 2 depth, right? And those look way better. They look way better. And he even, instead of going with 40 millimeters, he goes with 45 millimeters, because when you put 6 figures on the base, you actually need a little bit more space than 40 millimeters. And so they calculated out at 15 millimeters per figure. Those look really good. So I thought about it. I said, okay, if I take that basing style and I shrink it down to 15 millimeter, what am I getting? I'm getting about a 30 millimeter frontage by about a 20 millimeter or 25 millimeter depth. It's 30 by 25 approximately. So I experimented with that, and there was a time about 3 or 4 months ago that I took a bunch of 15 millimeter models, a bunch of base sizes. I mean, I got base sizes that I'll probably never use, but I got them in because I wanted, and I even experimented on paper and everything else, but you just can't really see what it looks like until they're attached to the base. And so what I did was I did a whole bunch of different basing combinations and like figure counts and different like shapes, either wide bases, square bases. I even considered individually basing it, but I went with a bunch of different bases, and I pretty much settled on a 40 millimeter wide base. That's the same, and you're saying, Mr. Everything, but that's the same as the black powder bases. Yes, but, okay, here we go. Here comes the but. They're 40 millimeters wide, but they're only 15 millimeters deep, right? So I even considered just doing 40 by 30s and putting 2 ranks. Effectively, it's the same size as what I'm doing, but it doesn't allow for counting the bases. So I'm making battalions with 6 bases. Okay, that's the same as a normal. I mean, because I kind of think it looks good. 40 millimeters wide with 4 figures on a base. So yes, they're going to be tight. They're going to be 10 millimeter figure counts, right? 1 figure per 10 millimeter. But guess what? That's the standard for 15s. So there'll be 4 guys on a base, and it'll be a 15 millimeter base. But what I'm not doing is putting a single row of bases and having it equate to 240 millimeters, right? What I'm doing is making 2 ranks. So each rank is 40 millimeters wide, but now you're going to get 2 bases in that 40 millimeters. And then 4 bases would be 80 millimeters. And 6 bases would only be 12 centimeters, right? Or 120 millimeters. So I'm getting my 6 bases. I'm getting half the width of a 28 millimeter black powder battalion. It's still half, but it still counts as 6 bases, and there's still 4 figures per base. So I could do squares, right? The 25 millimeter squares, and still get 6 bases. Right, so 1, 2, 4, 6. 6 would be 150. No, it wouldn't. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 6 bases would be 150 millimeters, which is less than 24. It would actually be very convenient, but I don't like the square base look. I want them to be wide. Okay, since I'm talking about this, I was wanting to delay this to later in the video because I have so many other things I wanted to talk about and do. But since I'm here and I'm on a roll, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. 4 figures wide on a single base looks way better than 4 figures on a square base. It's what I think. Instead of doing like 3 bases, right, 40 millimeters wide, I decided not to do that, or even 4 bases for like a standard unit, because then that would be 160. But instead of doing that, like mounting them on their bases in 2 ranks, I did 3, so that when they make an attack column, they would be even, right? You'd have 2 wide and 3 deep, and that would actually look really good. March column, I can take them all and put them front to front, front to back, which the line and the march column, it doesn't matter. They could have been double mounted on a thicker base. But because the attack column, I didn't want it to be 2 bases with 1 base in the back, right? It just wouldn't look right. I could have done 4 bases, but when I put them in a line, it would be too big. So I decided to go with the half thickness bases, so that when they do go to the attack column, I could just take those 2 bases and put them in the back. Okay, so on my spreadsheet, I did a lot of this mind work a long time ago, a couple months ago. And while I was doing it, I decided I just need to go ahead and just can the black powder project and write my own set of rules. There's a lot of things in black powder I like, but there's a lot of things in a lot of other game systems that I like as well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull from this one and pull from this one. I'm going to pull from this one, and I'm going to combine it into my own rules. And so because of that, because I knew I was writing my own set of rules, I said, I don't need to go with the black powder convention. I can do what I want to do. If I don't want to do 6 bases, I don't have to do 6 bases. I can do whatever I want, all right? Because, hey, it's my set of rules. But then I still thought about it. I said, I still like the single figure on a thin base. I thought about double ranks on a wider base. I thought about like 40 figure battalions or 32 figure battalions. Basically, I went through a bunch of numbers and tried to see exactly which ones would look best on the table. I went with square bases. I went with, at one point, I even went with just 1 base per battalion. I said, this is the base, and it's an extra big base, and you just put all your figures on this 1 base, because I want to take command of the battalion away from the player. It's a battalion maneuver element on the table, but I don't want the players playing a battalion commander. I want them to play a corps commander, giving their divisions orders, and the battalions inside the brigades are moving around doing their thing. So I said, I could just make a block and call it a battalion, and then have it do things based on its orders and give it modifiers, and just say it's in line or just say it's in column or whatever. And I said, well, that's effectively what I think I'm going to be doing anyway, but it just doesn't look, there's 2 reasons why I'm not going to do that. I think players like having to put units into formations. I think it gives them a little bit of um, this illusion of control of their army. Like, I get to put them in a line. I get to put them in a square. You know, as Napoleon, I'm going to go all the way down to the battalion level and put them in a square. You know, and I think some players like doing that. And I like doing that. I like doing that. That's why I want to play a battalion scale game, because I want the battalions, and this is why I'm not going to do just the blocks. Because why play a battalion scale game if you're not going to get to play the battalions, right? If I wanted to not play battalions, I would play Napoleon's Battles, or ESR, or some other set of rules that don't let you play the battalions, right? So because I want to play a battalion scale game, I'm going to let the players push around the battalions. And because they're pushing around the battalions, I'm going to let them change formation. That's like, and depending on the formation, will have different effects on what those units do during firing and melee and everything else. So I've decided not to do a single block, to break it down into individual 4-man bases, but they're in a line and not in a square. And that's really pretty much how far I've gotten, you know. So I started going through, like, how many men do I think each base should be. Basically, I mean, it's not exactly that, but it's about 100 figures per base. It's and so it makes, because at one point I thought it doesn't matter about the number of bases. It matters about how many figures are on the base. So I thought about every battalion having the same number of bases, but the number of figures on those bases change based on the unit and how many figures are in that battalion, etc., etc. And I decided to get away from the specialized bases. Like, that unit has 400. This is a thought. That unit has 400 men in the battalion, so each base has 4 guys. And that unit there has 500 men, so we'll use 50 millimeter bases and put 5 figures. But because that unit over there only has 200 men, we'll put 2 figure bases. And I thought about that, and I said that would look appropriate. I mean, the number of bases allowing for the formation changes and stuff, but the number of figures would definitely let players identify how many men are in those battalions. But then I thought, realistically, it makes it makes every battle a unique experience when it comes to organizing your armies. You got to have some universal scales. This is what I was telling myself. I got to make the units scalable without changing the base size and the number of figures on the bases. Because if I take 4 bases, that might be a small unit, and 6 bases might be a large unit or something, right? And I was thinking, okay, so I could just have less bases for smaller units and more bases for larger units. But all the base sizes will be the same and all the numbers of figures in those bases will be the same, because the units in the Napoleonic periods didn't always have the same number of troops. It varied based on the battle they were in, what year it was. So if I make a 4th Light Regiment, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion, or whatever, and I make them all match a specific battle, like let's say Waterloo, what if I wanted to put them in a different battle, like a Wagram or something, where they had a different amount of troops? Am I going to have to take that 5-figure base and switch it out for a 4-figure base? I don't want to do that. So I decided we're going to just make them all 4 figures and just add bases or deduct bases depending on the size of the unit. Okay, so having seen this article that came out where they're talking about the Prussians coming out, this is something I wanted to talk about. The Prussians are coming out. So this church right here, is it gonna, okay. So it looks like you're going to get a garden, a wall, and the church for $38.50. Now, I'm afraid that might be cardboard tombstones. Yeah, there's a lot of different pictures, but they're all pretty much the same thing, aren't they? Okay, so this should be Sarissa, right? Sarissa does all their, yeah, Sarissa does all their terrain, right? Their buildings. MD, I was thinking maybe it would say Sarissa in there, but they're not going to suggest you go to Sarissa, but I will. Okay, so Sarissa makes 15 millimeter and 28 millimeter and 20 millimeter. Those are the 3 main. I mean, I understand they do 40s, but you'll notice that none of these are epic, right? So let's see if I can fix this. Okay, so that's not the full thing, but that's okay. So let's go 15. 15 World War Europe, because it's not North America or South Africa colonial. Okay, what's the first thing we see there? 15 millimeter Waterloo collection, right? And what's that? That looks like Plans Noir, right? 200 pounds. Okay, hold on. Gotta fix this. Boop. There we go. 242 in the dollars. If I wanted to get LaBelle Alliance or DeCoster's House or all these other Papillote Farm, I definitely need the Papillote Farm. La Haye Saint Huguemont. And there it is. $21. Now that doesn't have the the wall, and it doesn't have the okay, it's not doing the, okay, can I do that? Yeah. It doesn't have the wall, and it doesn't have the what they call it, cemetery, the tombstones, right? But that looks awesome. And it's 15s. You know, it's not this 13.5 or whatever it is. Now, if they were doing it in 10 millimeter, I think that would be awesome. Because, okay, what is that? Okay. That was the email they sent me about all the black powder, bolt action, black seas, all that. Okay, we'll just close all that out. I can even close the, okay, where's my email? Close that. I plan to put my buildings, I'm going to, in my set of rules, right? Because that's Napoleonics from here to going forward, at least for the next year or two. My buildings are going to be 10 millimeter buildings, and they're going to be put on a town sector base. And when a battalion occupies that town sector, they're actually going to be put in the town sector, or like in the, like on, well, you don't see it on the screen anymore, but like the graveyard area around Plains Noir. That might be, I might have a base with a building in the middle, and then a wall going around it. That would represent the town sector. And it would represent more than just one building. That would represent like 4 or 5 different buildings inside of a city. So you would have the city of Plains Noir, but you might have about 5 or 6 buildings, where in reality there was probably like 60 buildings. Okay. Another piece of news that I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, yeah. The front rank. You can actually go to Gripping Beast nowadays and actually get front rank. They are, it looks like all the exact same package deals, miniatures, are all at Gripping Beast now. So I was trying to wrap my head around the costs. I think they did go up a little bit, but I could be wrong. It might have went down. But I was looking at like just a French unit just to get my grips or whatever, and it looks like you're getting 6 models for £7. So whatever that winds up being. I think that's right. Can't spell. So for $8.45 for 6 models, I think that's good. Okay, let's go to Gripping Beast. Yeah, first thing you see right there, front rank figures. They have a learn more. Okay, I'm looking through my tripod here. Yeah, so these are the eras that you can get, and just like the original front rank site, you would have to buy horses separately. Now, some of the kits uh, would have the horses already inside of them. Like if you bought a cavalry, like there's Napoleonic horses. But let's just say, what did I like? A dragoons, right? Napoleonic. I got my painting glasses on and not my computer because I was planning on doing this work here. Okay, those are my computer glasses. Oh, look at that. I can see everything. Of course, they're last. Okay. £1.50 for one figure. That sounds normal. That sounds, yeah, that sounds very. Here they are, battalion packs. Oh, they got multiple pages of that. Okay, I'm confused. It might have been considered a reinforcement. Reinforcements, here we go. 6 figures, oh, £9. Okay, I said 7, right? I don't know where it is. So £9. Okay, see, yeah, I think that's a little more than they used to be. I think they were like £6, £7. Okay. That's reinforcements. That's a different reinforcement. Okay. This is the one that has 36. You would think they'd put the packs in here. But it would just take a minute to go through all these figures and try to figure out where everything is. And here, at least they put that in there. You know? That looks pretty sweet. Then again, you know, Front Rank does a really good job. I love their molds. I would have to order a couple from Gripping Beast just to see if they're in good quality or not. They're now live. A new range of high quality metal miniatures. Please be patient. Okay, because they haven't finalized everything. So they might not have what is this? New card driven tabletop wargame rules. I wonder if it's the Napoleonic saga. Soldiers of Napoleon. What is this? Okay. I know a new Napoleonic rule set I'm going to have to check out. Oh, here's the QRS. A detailed example of play PDF format. I'm going to have to do that. Arcturus Games. I wonder if it's like similar to their Saga system. But just by looking at a QRS, you pretty okay. I don't need to download that right now. All right. So I was just happy to say that I saw that Front Rank was now at Gripping Beast again. I knew Gripping Beast was buying them. Yeah. Okay. Now we're back to my table. Like I said, those guys I'm going to finish off camera. These are 4 15mm battalions that I'm working on, and they're fairly close to being finished as well. I kind of were doing these parallel with these guys. But yeah, that's 4 battalions. You know, it's going to be like knock, 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 boom. 1 week, 4 battalions. I could have done more if I wasn't also working on these. Or I should say I could do it faster. Okay. You guys know that I play Battle Group, right? And I get a bunch of 15mm planes in, mainly because I don't want to play with 144 scale planes, which is like a 12mm. I'm playing 15mm. Let's get 15mm, right? Which is 1/100 scale. Unfortunately, this Typhoon is only 1/95 scale, but that's okay. I think this Spitfire is it's 93 scale. Okay. That just means those guys are just a little bit bigger than they're supposed to be, but that's okay. 95, 100, you never will tell the difference. These are die cast. This guy weighs almost as much as my P-47. This guy weighs quite a bit, actually. Okay. This one, the P-47, the Mustang are all the same company, which is, it's Daron, I think is the name of the company. But to check them out, you can go to postagestampairplanes.com. That's the website where you get these guys. And this one here is actually an Italeri die cast. I'm actually selling these on my eBay store if you want to check this guy out. But this has got a much wider base. You know, the base is much wider. He seems like he'd be way stabler, like Kenny Stabler. No, just stable, more stable on the table. Where these guys look like they would tip over, because those bases are not the greatest, especially when you got a wide wingspan like this and it doesn't want to stay in. When I pick this up, a lot of times that'll stay behind by accident. I mean, it'll stay in on the table. That's no problem. But if I was to get it, look at, see, I just picked this up. That thing just fell off. I love the fact that this has got its cannons and its bombs, and it looks like it's ready to go. This guy looks like it has a gas tank, and I had to glue, Italeri model, I had to glue the propeller assembly on, and I had to glue the cannons on. I didn't have to do anything with this guy. Just pull them out, stick them together. They weigh enough that leaving them on these bases could possibly tip them over. So what I plan to do is glue them down to these bases, and then flock these bases similar to the ones that I've already done. I think I'm even going to do this one. Wish I could go back a little bit further like that to put the wing in the center of the base, but I can't, so I'll just push this up to the edge of the base and live with it like that. And I'm going to use clear grip on this. Is this glued in? Okay, yeah, everything's glued together. Okay. And this is going to take a while to dry. Now, this does need to be glued to this because I don't want it to keep popping off. And also, this needs to be glued to that because I don't need that to be popping off. That's okay, so I'm going to let that. Yeah, the weight of that plane, maybe I should do it like this. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Yep, that's Spitfire. Now, if you're just an aviation fanatic or enthusiast and you want like modern jets or even Cold War era or even passenger liners, this company would have that for you. They've got a lot of different planes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go for it on this one. Not all of them are 15 millimeter, but a lot of them are. And I'm a big 15 millimeter plane scale fan. If I'm playing a 15 millimeter game, I want to have 15 millimeter planes. Okay, that's good. I don't even know what size this is. 100 millimeters. Okay. I'm going to push this mainly to the front just because of the wings and the tail. Okay, that looks good right there. I know it's angled upwards. Okay. That's going to be a minute to dry to a point where I can go put it on the shelf and let it dry even further. I'll do the flocking and stuff way off camera, not to worry about any of that. Okay. All right, I want to start working on these guys, but I'm going to let these guys sit for just a minute while I talk about something else. Totally not gaming related. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this TV series called For All Mankind. I thought it was going to be a series. Okay, its third season just started, right? I accidentally clicked on it. It started playing. The first thing I saw was a spacecraft. So I was thinking to myself, I might want to see this. So I shut it down. I found the first season and I started watching. Okay. Spoiler alert. If you guys have not seen it and you're thinking about wanting to go see it, I would strongly recommend seeing it. 100% strong. I give it 2 thumbs up. Now, but there's a little caveat. You need to know this. It's science fiction. But it's not far-fetched. It's actually, think of it like, was Turtle Dove? Is that right? Turtle Dove wrote those like Civil War novels where someone went back in time with an M16 and he was in the American Civil War with an M16 or something like that. I mean, I didn't read those novels. Civil War does not interest me at all. But think of it like that. Like it's history, like you have true historical events going on, like from the 60s, because that's when it starts, is in the 60s. So it's like in the 60s, but with some slight changes that are obvious. They did it on purpose, and you can easily identify the changes. But you're like, wait, that's not the way it happened. That's not what happened, you know? And so it kind of keeps you on your toes, and you don't know what's going to happen because think of it like an alternate dimension. Like this is Earth 2 or something. This is like a dimension where, and I'm going to ruin it for you. This is episode 1, the first 5 minutes of the show. The Russians land on the moon first. Yeah. So that's the premise pretty much of the entire show, is that the Russians are ahead of us in the space race. And it's all so far, and I'm halfway through the second season. It's still in the past. They go through years, they do year jumps, but I think they've only made it up to like the 80s or something like that. So it's still in the past. Reagan's the president, you know. They take a lot of inspiration from actual astronauts and things like that, and they actually have astronauts, not real astronauts, like, but they would have something like John Glenn or something like that. He's actually in it. It's an actor, but he's in it, you know. And then they have like Buzz Aldrin and Molly Cobb. You know, they've got some historical figure. Well, they had the Kennedys and now they have Reagan, and you know, but it's starting to get into the realm of it. The previous part was science fiction, but it was like real science fiction. And now they're starting to get into fake, you know, like it's starting to turn into an actual science fiction show. So, I mean, it's halfway through the second season, but really the character development, I'm looking at these guys' outfits, their haircuts, what's on the radio. They did a really good job. I mean, I lived through the 70s, so I know, right? I was born in the 60s. I remember when Reagan was president. I remember those days. And, you know, when they showed Johnny Carson on the TV interviewing one of the astronauts, they did a really good job of taking Johnny Carson saying what he's saying, and then the modern actor saying what they're saying, and it goes seamless, you know. And I'm like, wow, okay, you know, I know how hard that can be as a video editor myself, but there's a couple of things that I'm like, really, would that really happen, you know? but it was, I if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it from the first episode, you know, For All Mankind. Being that it is on Apple TV, I expected it to be super woke, right? I expected it to be shoving an agenda down my throat, you know, but it's not. It's like old Star Trek. They had an agenda, and you know, TOS, Star Trek, was super woke. But they didn't shove it down your throat. They let you figure it out. You know, they had all these messages that they shared, and you enjoyed watching it and absorbing that woke message. Where this one is kind of the same way. They talk about, I don't know, mental illness, disabilities, and homosexuality is even in there, but they don't make it like that's not what the show's about. That's in the background. And I appreciate that. I understand that they've got their little agenda that they want to share with me, but they're making an enjoyable show, you know? So I just wanted to say that. So if you haven't seen it, definitely I recommend it 100%. Okay. I can push these off to the side and start painting. Okay. I'm not going to probably do that today. Actually, I could probably put it right there. Start with you. And you. This is the one I struggle with. And you. Make it. Are you going to make it? Yay! Okay, all the planes are up there in my boxes. Okay, so I will. I did my research. This is something I wanted to do on camera. That's the French and the Swiss, no big deal. Okay, pen. I want to identify which of these groups of figures are part of which battalion, because just because. No. Maybe that's it. Okay. I could probably show you this list I'm working with just because it's there. Okay. So this is my French list. And I need to change the color coding on it because that's all changed. All that color coding was when I was doing 28 millimeter, and as I finished units, I would change the color and say, okay, this unit is done, and like how many standard battalions it winds up being, etc., etc. Now I brought over all the units. Okay, I don't think that's the right tab. Hang on. Maybe it is. Okay, so in this tab, like you can see this section right there, right? That is 5th Division. That is Bachelou's division, and then you got Husson's brigade, and then you got Campy's brigade, right? And I went through and I looked at these numbers, because these numbers are the number of troops in those battalions at Quatre Bras. And then I looked down here, yeah, right here. The 108th, okay, the 108th line, there's a unit with 415, there's a unit with 406, and then there's this 3rd battalion, which is 251. When I write this scenario, I'm going to write that 3rd battalion out of the game. It's not going to be in the game. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 250 guys and I'm going to roll them into these 2 battalions. So these 2 battalions are going to be standard sized battalions and not small battalions. Because they would have close to 5, well, they'd have over 500 men at that point. So I basically just made them with 2 standard battalions, 108. Let's see. Boom. Let's zoom this in just a little bit so we can actually see what we're looking at. Okay. Where's the 108? There it is. 108. You notice how, and I adjusted these numbers based on taking that 3rd battalion and just rolling it in. If you're in the 400 range, I was thinking 4 bases. If you were in the 500 to 600 range, I'm going to give you 6 bases. But when I saw 483 and 487, I'm like, that's close enough to 500. Just give it to them. So I gave them, instead of, because 4 bases would be too few, so I just went ahead and gave them 6 bases. So basically I've got all of the 3 divisions. I've got 5th, 6th, and 9th. Pyre is up here, but I haven't figured out how I figured out how I'm going to base cavalry, but I don't know how many figures or how many bases per unit and per 100 men or whatever. I think it's going to be the same. I think I'm going to do maybe 50 figures or 50 men per base. I think that's what I'm going to do. Because I'm going to do like a 40 millimeter wide base, 30 millimeter depth. So it's going to be exactly twice as big as a normal infantry base, but it's only going to have 3 cavalry models on it. I think. So I haven't done them yet. But they're coming. I'll probably work on this tonight, And then the allies I haven't touched yet. And the only reason why I went ahead and did these is because I knew I was almost finished with these infantry on the ground here. So I was like, okay, what units am I going to do? Well, I've decided I'm going to do the 72nd, and these are all going to be 1st Battalion units. I probably could have just said, okay, this one's 1st Battalion, this one's 2nd Battalion, this one's 3rd Battalion, this one's 4th Battalion. But because they all have eagles, and I didn't want to snip the eagles off, I decided I'm just going to make them all 1st Battalion. And so we got 72nd, 108th, 3rd, and 1st. Okay. So then I went into another site that you probably have seen me go into quite a bit. This site right here, where I can click on French. I can click on okay, I can't scroll, my face is in the way, but I can click on line infantry, and then all the line infantry regiments pop up, right? And if I wanted to, I could scroll all the way down to like, what was that, 108th, right? That was one of the regiments I'm working with. Click on that, and then, yeah, my face is in the wrong place. Let me go ahead and move myself. This and this. Okay. There we go. Now I'm not in the way, or at least as much in the way. Okay, so it tells me right here 3 battalions, 1107 men, right? But then you've got your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd battalions, right? 1st battalion had this says 399, but you need to add the officers too. So 415, I think. Yeah, right there. Doi. Why do I need to do the math? They did it for me already. Okay, 415. Great. Back up. 2nd battalion. 406. Back up. We've already kind of figured this out, right? But then when you look at the 3rd battalion, oh, wait a second. This one says 351. It still comes out. It's still going to be less than 600 per battalion. I'm still rolling it in. That might be considered a small battalion. Ooh, spicy. Spicy. Do I want 3 small battalions or 2 standard battalions? But that's I think we're going 2 standard. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But okay. Number's a little bit off, a little bit different. But my point is, oh, and then they give you the regimental staff, whatever. I go to 1st Battalion. I go to uniforms. And it basically tells you what the uniforms should look like, right? The figures I'm doing are pretty much all in greatcoats, 100%. So I don't need to worry about the drummer being a different color or anything like that. Okay. Okay, we got Grenadiers. We already know pretty much 99% of your French Grenadiers are going to have red plumes, red collars, red epaulets, red, right? Red down here. Normal good stuff. But when you talk about this Voltigeur company, okay, we're looking at yellow collars, green epaulets, and yellow plumes. Now they say you could do alternate patterns. Ignore that. I always go with the basics. So we go with the green and the yellow. So on my thingamajigger here, let's find 108. 108. Green epaulets, yellow plumes. I wrote that in there, which I'm going to delete once I get them painted, right? And then this has, now if you look at the 72nd, okay, we're back to our list. I find the 72nd, click it, go to 1st Battalion. The only thing that's going to be different is the Voltigeur company. They have green epaulets as well, but now their plumes are not yellow. They are green with yellow tips. So over here, I said green epaulets, green with yellow tips. And then yellow epaulets with yellow with a red tip. Very weird. That's first line. So those are the four, and then green with yellow tips. So these are the guys that green, yellow tip, green, yellow tip. Okay, so 3rd and 72nd are very similar. But everybody else, every battalion is potentially different. I mean, it's not all of them, but potentially. So I want to make sure I got it right when I go in and I paint these guys. So right now, I'm going to take just a few minutes before we close to figure out which ones are going to be which ones. Okay, I think I want to make this guy first. Okay, he's going to be first. I like the look of these guys. Okay, hold on. There is a 3rd line. Okay, so this guys are going to be the 3rd line. Okay, so we're going to have 1st and 3rd. And this guy is going to be 72nd. Is that right? Is that the ones I'm doing? 72nd, 108. Okay. '72nd. '108. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. And then, if I remember right, I should have a Voltigeur and a Grenadier stick per battalion. But remember, they're only 4-figure bases. So, I don't know. I need to figure this out here. Okay. That could be a Grenadier. Okay. That is nothing just yet. Nothing. Okay. Could be a Grenadier. Or a Voltigeur. They look exactly the same. So far we got 3 regulars. 4 regulars, okay. Five regulars. Because really I only need 1 base of Grenadiers and 1 base of Voltigeurs. So that's really only 4 figures. Okay, that's like 1 Grenadier right in the middle of all these guys. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't put that together very well. Well, there's 6 no-issue bases right there. I mean, line, Fusiliers, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, that could be Grenadiers or Voltigeurs. Okay. Oh, that's the guy with 1. Okay. Okay. Well, it looks like I'm only getting 6 figures, Grenadiers and Voltigeurs. Oh, well, no, that's not right. Okay, hold on. Okay, those 2 extra figures are Grenadiers or Voltigeurs on that one. So that would be a total of 8. That's perfect. Okay, maybe I thought this through ahead of time. Yep, those are elites as well. Those are elites. That was obvious. I didn't even have to look very hard. Okay, so that's going to be 8 elites per. So we just put 2 regulars with each battalion. And I did do kind of a random greatcoat when I was painting them. I did mostly brown, but I put a light gray on every base, and I put a dark gray on every base, maybe 2 on some bases, 3 on that base, and then I put a very greenish color on a couple of them, and basically just so that they all wouldn't be wearing exactly the same greatcoat. Okay. So I wanted to write on the base so I didn't have to constantly look up at my findings up here. But like 72nd is going to be green, green, yellow. So that tells me green epaulets, green plumes, yellow tips. Green and yellow. Okay, so now the 108 is green epaulets, green plumes. No, green epaulets. I already messed it up. Yellow plumes. Okay, we got to fix that. Okay, here we go. Green. Now I could say green, yellow, yellow, because it'll make it look like it's yellow tip and a yellow plume. And 3, what do we got on 3? We got green, green, yellow. Okay. So that's green epaulets, green plume, yellow tip. And the first had something to do with red. Okay, they have yellow epaulets, so they're like weird yellow, yellow, red. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay. Okay. Three. Okay. I just put a 2 on there because it's 72. And I'm just going to put it 8. Because it's 108. Okay, so those are my 4 battalions. I know what the elites, well, 4 of the figures. It's really only 4 figures. It's the 4 Voltigeurs. The other 4 elites are going to be Grenadiers, and so they're going to have red, so that won't even apply. And the rest will all be in company pom-pom colors. I should be able to do like 1, 2, 3. I can only do 3 of the companies unless I started doing like 3-figure companies, which I'm not going to do. So each base of the battalion will have its own company color. It'll either be the Voltigeur, the Grenadier, or the other 3 companies. Now, something I thought about doing was painting all the companies in one battalion the same pom-pom color. That way you would know, like, you could look and say, okay, this battalion has this pom-pom color, but I don't think that'll matter. I'm gonna mix it up. All right, and that's where we're gonna end it for the night. Thanks guys for coming out and checking out. Thanks Reg for coming out and watching and commenting. And if you want to see more of this, be sure to hit the notification icon so you can be notified whenever I go live or if I upload any videos. All right, I'll catch you in the next one.